Hi there, KT, and welcome to the Lantern Mindfulness Practice. We have another drop. And I want to thank you for being here very much. I appreciate you being here. And I'm glad that you are here. And I hope that you're finding it enriching and motivating and helping you establish a daily practice where you do most things most days that help you on your journey to self, help you with some actualizations, some learnings. And kind of what we're teeing up for here in this drop is we're getting ready to go into some caves. The treasure you seek is in the cave you fear to enter, and we're getting ready to go in some caves. I've been teeing you up for going into some caves. And so what we've got this mindfulness practice. You say, well, tell us a little bit more about that. It's the 5 things. Gratitude. Gratitude is essential in your daily practice. Gratitude and anxiety cannot exist in the body at the same time. For that reason alone, gratitude. Gratitude is higher vibe and higher attraction, and good things come when you're feeling gratitude and you feel better. Meditation. Yeah, been doing lots of that. And that is once you kind of get a rhythm for it. And there is a body scan that's been posted. That's going to be helpful. I'm going to do some other types of meditations too to help in that area. So more content coming. Journaling, lots of that as of late. I'm back in the saddle on that and really, really enjoying it. Glad I'm doing it again. Moving around outside. Well, today's kind of a snowy day, so we're going to move around inside. So I'm going to be doing some stretching and some, calisthenics here in my big Forest Fresh house this afternoon, and then self-care. So here we are at self-care. This is the meat of the sandwich right here, and so this is getting us in a pretty good spot for our journey, for continuing our journey, I should say. So we started off with writing down who we admired and why, and what characteristics about them. And there's going to be more on that in a future drop. And then we were paying attention to what kind of stuff was going on in our head. So I was starting to get you in the direction of pay attention to your self-talk. Pay attention to how you talk to yourself. Pay attention to your thoughts. What's your messaging? What's your propaganda? What's going on in there? Okay? Because we don't have to believe that stuff, and we need to start dismantling that. We need to understand, where's that coming from? Who said that and why? What on earth? Where on earth did that come from? Do we really believe that? Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. So the self-talk, huge part of self-care. Then we wrote down our story as we tell it. And we went through some challenges to do that, I'm sure. I'm sure it wasn't easy to write down some of that stuff. And maybe we glossed over some stuff, and that's okay. We'll have an opportunity to update our story down the road. But that at least got us kind of kicking around where we've been and what we've done, okay? Then we started to perhaps organize those into chapters, episodes, cul-de-sacs. And it can really be this interconnected web of cul-de-sacs, right? Where one leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. And it's a complex system where maybe a lot of the density of trauma in our lives is represented by a larger, richer, fuller. And by richer, I mean just a bigger, all-around experience of a cul-de-sac. Lots of stuff in that sack. So that's what I mean by richer, not an affluence. Not a richer by affluence. And so we started to kind of organize those. I like cul-de-sacs because I like the idea of a cul-de-sac representing kind of an age period. You know, there's a cul-de-sac for my elementary. There's a cul-de-sac for my junior high. There's a cul-de-sac for my volleyball player. There's one for the one who was in theater. She gets a little cul-de-sac. All of these episodes in my life have this, array of cul-de-sacs. And within those cul-de-sacs, there's that house, that freaky house. Nobody wants to go near. You run past it. Yeah, that's the cave, right? And so I like the idea of the cul-de-sac. Then we got a visual and a version of ourself at that age. What version of us was going through that stuff at that time in that cul-de-sac? What does she look like? She or she, or they? Visual, kind of an idea of who you were at that time, something that you can kind of lean into when you want to get a visual of that episode of your life. Who were you then? And then, because they are, each one of them gets a superhero outfit. You can give a superhero outfit to each one of them. You can have a whole cast. You can have the Justice League. You could have the Wonder Twins and all of that, Grape Ape and Captain Caveman. That's all who was part of my story. But I picked Superman for all of them because they're superheroes for what they endured and they survived. And you're here because of them. So we did that, okay? So now it would seem it might be time to begin our journey, but not yet. We need one more tool. We need a few more tools in our backpack before we go in some of them caves. And so what I suggest is this. Let's give some perspective that helps us understand why we did what we did during those times. There's going to be some dark episodes of shame. A lot, okay? And shame will likely be the thing that you grapple with the most. That will keep you outside of your cave. Walking back and forth outside your cave, trying to get your gumption to go in, right? And Brene Brown, I will say this, Brene Brown does a lot of great work on shame. A lot of great work. And I'd point you there to help with that. Because what I'm seeking to accomplish with this little pep talk is to give you, embolden you a bit, get you ready for it, okay? Now there's going to be things that happen and you encounter and you experience as you're dealing with these shameful encounters, but you don't have to sit with them for long. You don't have to sit with them for long. You can kind of step into them, process through what you need to process through within them, and let them go. But in order to get to that point, we got to get in that cave. And in order to get in that cave, we have got to have a frame of reference that helps us operate with compassion before we get to that cave. Because here's why. I believe in front of each one of those caves is that little superhero version of us, positioned outside of that cave. Terrified to go in that cave. And terrified to take you in that cave. Because what are they afraid of? Your judgment. One more judgment. Right? So you've got to be able, before you go in them caves, let's see if we can't get you in a position where when you arrive down that path to get to that cave, and you got that little of you standing out in front of that cave, looking back at you with hope and fear, what are you going to look back with? Right? We've got to get you to the point where you can look at that little and say, I'm here, and I'm here to help. Good on you. Come here. We can do this. We can do this together. I know it weren't easy and I know it weren't pretty, but we got it and I'm super proud of you. I'm super proud of you. And everything that happened there is okay with me. So how do you get there? Some of them caves is nasty. Like I says, I'm pacing outside one of mine. So giving myself my little pep talk right now, I am. In my Yoda. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, so let's take a step back and see if we can get a broader perspective, okay? So we've got these, these neighborhoods and caves. I'm mixing my analogies, but point taken, I hope. So let's think a little bit about, I'm going to share with you some things that I did that helped, right? Some things that I learned along the way that really helped to shape my perspective. And that knowing this earlier is, I would have appreciated. Like, this is the stuff I would have liked to know. The first of which is, it is widely believed that we form a majority of our belief system by the age of 7. Our belief system, which pulls levers of right or wrong and good and bad. Good and bad by the age of 7, okay? So let that bomb drop for a minute, okay? Let that just kind of settle. Because then I'm going to ask you to think about your 7-year-old version, your 5, 6, 7-year-old version, okay? What was their environment like? Tumultuous would be my guess, okay? Rocky. Fear and uncertainty. Insecurity, fear, uncertainty, confusion. Okay? So you got this 7-year-old sitting in the middle of that, forming your belief system. Okay? All right, so then we've got this, I've got some notes. So then we've got this 7-year-old in this environment. Then I ask you to consider, who was teaching this kid how to life? What kind of role models were around? Usually when I think about this, it doesn't hit me like this. I can't remember role models. And this used to be a little bit part of my victim-y story, like poor me, I didn't have any role models. Nobody was teaching me how to life. But now I'm from the standpoint of, I didn't have any role models, and that's just a fact of my life. I can't remember them. My grandmother, for sure. My father's mother, the most important person in my life, by far. By far. She was my buoy in the ocean. I'd spend summers with her and my grandpa, but she was just incredible. But other than that, the adults in my life weren't paying any attention to me. Remember I'm Gen X, that, they had the advertisement at 10 that said, remember you got them kids, where are they? Like, what? What? No one was worried about the kids or how they felt or what they were doing, or if you hurt their feelings. Nobody's caring about the kids. Okay, no asking them how they felt about things. Nobody. And so I was learning how to life by watching the dysfunction around me. That's what I was doing. I was learning how to please. I was learning that if I wasn't performing and behaving, I likely wasn't getting any attention or love. If I wasn't going along to get along, that I was a problem. So all of that kind of warm, snuggle up to that, okay? Snuggle up to formed by 7 and who were you at 7 and what kind of an environment had you been living in and were you living in? And then who was showing you how to life? And then let's bolt on one last thing that I really like to think about is, if you can get down with no 2 moments are the same, like I'm sitting in this moment and I'm sitting in this moment, very similar, but not the same. Circumstances are different. So each moment is new. And so you are doing something you have never done every second of every day. You are doing something you've never done before every second of every day. So kind of see if you can snuggle up to that. Because when you get to the entrance of that cave and you can look at that kid and just really honestly feel like, I believe that you did the very best you could with what you had. I believe that you did. And I love you for it. You will make easier work for yourself. And you will find that perspective shifts your perspective on shame. There are episodes, my freshman year of college was a landmine of shame. And once I got a visual of that version of me, and I could sit and spend time with understanding what was she dealing with and where was she at that point, then I can get down with allowing the grace for the decisions that were made. Conduct unbecoming. And to be able to know that and hold that. And let the actions be separate from the person, the version. And say, I understand why you did what you did. I accept that those are the things that happen because I understand how terrified and insecure and low worth
you felt. Because I've spent that time with you in those episodes, preparing for this, getting my compassions ready. You've got to be able to get to that cave and have that be your look back. Compassion and unconditional love for all that happened. Conduct unbecoming or not. Shame. Okay?
Think about if you were walking side by side with a friend through the same episode and that friend had behaved in the way that you did. You would give them more grace than you gave yourself. We give more grace to others for poor behavior than we do ourselves. So kind of keep that in mind, and let's kind of reverse that. Because grace and space and acceptance, I think, if you can kind of get down with, I did the best I could and it weren't pretty, but I'm here and I'm grateful. All right? So the thing that I will leave you with, the buffalo are the only species that instinctively turn to walk into the storm. A storm is coming, they go into the storm. All other species instinctively run. So if you think about that, like there's logic behind that. Get it over with, get through it, and it's probably not as bad or as long. And then the other thing that I thought is, not only does it require faith and trust and surrender the buffalo to walk into that storm, but also once in the storm, no idea of how long. No idea what the other side is like. No idea how bad it gets. Only that this next step I can see and I trust.
So I do. I know it's going to get bumpy, and I know it's going to get difficult. I would have liked to have had these types of guardrails going into the work that I did. I'm on the other side of most, maybe, of that. I get the sense. I would have liked to have had that organized like that. And so I encourage you to lean into the journaling and take it seriously. There's a lot of fruits that you can bear from those efforts. And then be like the buffalo and turn into the storm. But before you do, spend that time being ready to meet the eye of that version of you at the head of that cave. That's going to be meaningful. It's meaningful work. And meet shame head on. Meet shame head on. Step into it. Fear is a mile wide and an inch deep, and so is shame. And so understanding to give yourself that grace that you don't expect yourself to be perfect, and you didn't expect yourself to handle it ideally. I'm going to give myself that grace. I did the best I could, and I made it through. Let's celebrate. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, right? And those accomplishments, remember, let's get those in our back pocket for when we're dealing with our shames. Then we have something at the ready and fresh for the accomplishments, that little one. Because that little one, when you get to that part, it's going to be tricky. Let's get some accomplishments at the ready that we can remind ourselves of what we overcame and how proud we are. All right. Continue. Next steps. I'm going to keep on keeping on. I'm going to keep it coming. I'm working on loneliness. That's the long and short of it. I'm working on, here's what I'm deconstructing, is what are my beliefs around loneliness? Why do I believe that it is pathetic for me to be here? Not pathetic, but like I'm having a really hard time with, I don't have any friends and I'm here by myself. I'm having a hard time with that.
And so I am leaning into, why do I believe that? That 7-year-old, she was lonely as hell. That's where I start. So those are my next steps. I encourage you to continue to turn into the store, my friends. More content coming. Stick around. All right. Keep on keeping on. You can do it.